What's up everyone and welcome back to Reload Reacts episode 49. My name is Trey and today we are going to look through r/am I the butthole, the subreddit to find out if you are the one in the wrong for the argument that's kept you up at night. This first post is by Additional Wasabi 357. Am I the butthole for not ordering any food so I wouldn't have to split the bill? I, 27M, have been a part of a small friend group, around 8 people total, basically since college. For some background, 2 people from the group, Susan and Greg, are just absolute leeches. Going out for lunch? Expect them to order the most expensive on the menu, then feed you some sob story about their finances, and then dump half the bill on you. Last weekend, Dan, one of the people from the group, told me about a casual dinner. I told him how if Susan or Greg were there, I wouldn't be able to come. He tells me that they would be there, but I should just put my opinions aside and come just once. This is kind of where I might be a butthole. I agreed with him and told him I would be there. I show up and we all get to talking. Everyone began putting in their orders. Most of them spent about $40. There are only 6 people there. When it gets to Susan and Greg, they both order expensive dishes around $200. When it was my turn to order, everyone looked at me, but I just pick up the menu and point to the $4 Miller Lite and sent the waiter away. Dan asked why I hadn't ordered anything, and all I said was that I lost my appetite. Fair enough, I would too. The other 2 friends got up as well to cancel their orders and just have drinks. After the main courses came out, I saw Susan and Greg picking at their food. The waiter then brings over the check. Greg then grabs the waiter and asks him to split the check 6 ways. I stand up and correct him, saying the check was to be split 3 ways. Greg looks at me confused and asked why since we always split the bill. I reminded him that 3 of us had not gotten any food, so we would just be paying for our drinks. So basically at the end of the night, Dan, who probably only ate about $50 worth of food, was stuck with $146.98 check at the end. Yes, I remember the exact number. I swear I saw his jaw drop when he picked that receipt up. I slid a $10 towards the check, said goodbye everyone, and walked out. The next morning, I found my phone full of texts from Greg and Susan telling me I was a butthole for not ordering any food and forcing them to pay more than they had accounted for. I honestly laughed because the steaks alone were more than what they had paid, but to each their own, right? I also got a lot of messages from Dan saying that I could have just not came instead of pulling that stunt and getting him stuck with an outrageous bill. Edit. At this restaurant, the bar is separate, so drinks are on a separate bill if that makes sense. And if everyone is concerned about leaving a tip, I live in Australia. Yeah, tipping culture isn't very common here. Edit 2. Hey guys, just wanted to clarify some things. 90% of restaurants where I live, they don't do separate checks, and might separate the bill for you if you're lucky. By the way, this post is in AUD, so if you want the amounts in USD, you will have to convert it. Dan could have easily asked Greg and Susan to transfer him the money if he wanted, but he's always been about helping them through their financial hardship even though they're just using him, and keeps dragging me into it. I admit what I did was immature, but I'm tired of being forced to play along. It's his money, and if he wants to spend it on them, that's fine, but I'm not paying for them. Also, Dan's a really good friend of mine, albeit blind. I was just trying to get him to see what kind of people he was helping. I will admit it was a tad bit petty. The top comment reads, "Not the butthole. Is it not possible to ask the waiter for separate checks? Everyone gets their own check for what they ordered ahead of time? While some people think this is a little tacky, it's not anywhere near as tacky as ordering a meal that costs 5 times as much as everyone else's and expecting them to cover it." Yeah, I'll answer that one. It's not very common in Australia to separate checks, so I can understand OP with it not really being common, and it's more just common courtesy to just kind of order within the same range of price as what everyone else is ordering. And they clearly aren't doing that. So that's where you just stop inviting them out to restaurants. Like, I don't know why they keep being invited to places. I think those people really need to take a look at themselves, because they are leeches, and they're just kind of leeching off what everyone else is ordering and saying, no, actually, here is 3 times the price of what you ordered because I decided to get the most expensive thing on the menu. And then they picked at it. They didn't even want what was on their plate or bowl or whatever. Also, Dan telling you the next morning to not go after he just pushed you to go is kind of crazy. Dan's kind of a butthole as well, you know? I feel like Susan, Greg, and Dan are all in the wrong. OP, no, you're not in the wrong, not the butthole. This next post is by Far Impression 787. Am I the butthole for telling my neighbor to grow up, get a life, and get the F over the fact that I painted my house a color he doesn't like? I'm gonna go ahead and superstition tells me no. I bought a house in a community without an HOA. I wanted my home to be my home, and that includes making it look the way that I want. Fair enough. I also chose a neighborhood that already has fun, colorful houses instead of just plain earth tones. I finally got to the point where I could repaint my house. I picked a soft peachy color with sage, blue, and soft and dark pink accents. Fun and colorful without being too out there. I think if you Google colors blue sage peach, you'll see a similar palette. My neighbor Paul effing hates it and has been complaining non-stop since we started the project. He also made his opinion known that he hates our front lawn, lots of wildflowers and sunflowers, fun garden flags, a little free library, etc. Each and every time, I've told him that I don't care. Truly, I don't. And I've suggested a few times that maybe he'd be happier in an HOA community that has control over everything and forces people into having earth-toned homes. Paul got angry when I suggested that and said he's lived in his home for 15 years and shouldn't have to move. I told him, okay, that's fine. Well, you'll have to learn to live with a little colour. Yeah, it's not his house. What? Last weekend, I was putting in pavers that my niece and I had painted together. They're all things like ladybugs, turtles, birds, etc. in fun colours. I adore them, and my niece is so excited she gets to be a part of my home. Paul came over to complain yet again, saying it was all an eyesore and my niece was here. So I just told him, it's time for you to grow up and get the F over what I'm doing with my house. He got even more peed and told me that I have no right to talk to him this way. Do I know who I'm talking to, etc. This guy is ridiculous. I told him to just go away and get an effing life. If he has so much free time to complain about a colourful house, maybe he should get a bit of a hobby. Maybe you should get a hobby, you know? Maybe, yeah, think so. He stormed off, calling me a nasty piece of work. My niece was cracking up on the side. For the record, no one in my family is uptight. We really don't care about cursing. I know some people still clutch their pearls over it around kids. She's 15, but I'm sure she says worse. She definitely does. Anyway, one of the other neighbours came to tell me that he's been flapping his yap about how disrespectful I am to talk to him like that. She told me that she knows he's a pain, but that he's been in the neighbourhood forever and it's worth being nice to him. I don't know. Is telling him to get a life that big of a deal? Am I the butthole? No. No, you aren't. So, okay. You're living in your own house, minding your own business, and he comes onto your property, or at least goes near it, and then he's like, I don't like that. Change that. It's got nothing to do with him. It's not his business. And yeah, if he had a hobby, you'd be a bit more distracted rather than having to go outside and constantly stare at the house he doesn't like. Dude, just don't go near the house. It's not... Like, I understand that they're neighbors, but it's not gonna hurt him physically to be near a peach-colored house. Chill out, Paul. What is going on? Not the butthole. What does the top comment have to say? Not the butthole. The house colors scheme sounds gorgeous. Something we'd have here in our park neighborhood. My guess is your neighbor is more upset about the kitschy items in your front yard than the color of your house. Maybe you need some pink flamingos. Someone responded and said, Paul? It is Paul, right? I want to make sure that I know who I'm talking to. I'm gonna make a deal with you, okay? Every time you're over here complaining about my house or yard, I'm adding 2 pink flamingos to the decor. Every week that you go without being, I would take 1 flamingo down. If I hear that you've been talking about me to the neighbours, Duck Anna is coming out on the porch, okay? Questions? And for those who don't know what a Duck Anna is, it's this right here. I can't really describe it other than duck and banana, so sorry audio listeners. Half duck, half banana, maybe made of clay or it's inflatable, I can't really tell. But no, not the butthole, not at all. This next post is by one entrepreneur 5686. Am I the butthole for declining to fix the errors I made in a blanket I crocheted for someone and taking it back instead? I made a blanket for my sister-in-law Amanda. I was able to give it to her last weekend. Aw, that's cute. She asked for it in certain colours. I didn't have any other projects on my to-do list, so I was happy to make it for her. I had most of the colours already too, so it worked out. When I gave it to her, she was excited and she started to look it over. I figured it was to see how it was put together, since she doesn't crochet. After a little bit, she said that she loved the blanket, but she couldn't help but notice some of the little mistakes I'd made along the way. I asked what she meant, and she pointed out some things like I'd accidentally done 1 row of stripping instead of 3 for one section. I'd switched to the wrong colour and threw off a pattern at some point, etc. She handed it back to me and told me that she loves my progress with it and can't wait to see the finished project. I told her that it was finished. She looked down at it and said that it wasn't done until it was perfect, and I'd made several mistakes that I could easily go back to correct. I was honestly dumbfounded by this. I so agree. I hate the way perfectionists try to force their quirk onto others. I made this blanket for her for free, out of my own free time because I love her. I told her that. She said she knows, and she loves me for it, but that she wouldn't be able to use it because she wouldn't be able to focus on anything but the mistakes. I said whatever, and took the blanket back and said that if she doesn't want it, I'll keep it. She looked surprised and said that she does want it. She just wants my best work and not something half-aid. I told her that if she thinks me crocheting a whole effing blanket and making minimal errors is half-aying it, I'd rather just keep the blanket. She's so upset with me and told me I was being ridiculous and that it wouldn't take me long to fix it. If you know anything about crochet, you know that if I made an error on row 36 of 1115 row blanket, that's essentially starting over again. Anyway, I come to you all, lol. Am I the butthole? No, some of these are so clearly obviously not the butthole. I am a perfectionist. I have a bit of OCD, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I would never do this. That is horrible. Wow. The fact that she handed it back and said the only thing she'd be able to focus on is the mistakes is insane. She didn't even have to look it over. She could have just taken it and said thank you. You know, it's not that hard. Being kind is free, people. You don't have to do that. If you want to be a perfectionist, make it yourself. That's what I do. I make things myself. I'm not going to have a go at someone for doing it badly if I don't think I can do it better. If she thinks she can do it better, then do it. But don't give it back to her and say, nah, I think you can do better, and actually I'm just going to tell you that, and then you're going to do it for me, and then you're going to give it back to me. And I'm not going to apologize for how I'm acting, because there's nothing wrong with how I'm acting. No, not the butthole at all, that person's insane. This next post is by Wine Counts as Fruit. Am I the butthole for making seat swapper cry? So I boarded the plane, settle into my economy plus seat, Woman approaches me, asks me to change seats to 32B so her 9-year-old can sit with her. I ask her how much cash she has to repay me for the money I spent on the seat. She says I'm cruel for leaving her son with anxiety sitting alone. I asked if she offered the person sitting next to her son her seat in economy plus. She said she needed the leg room. I said clearly she cares more about her own comfort than her son's well-being. If she cared, she would give up her seat and move to the back. She starts breaking out in a screaming wail filled with "how could yous." 10 minutes later, a smiling man sits down next to me grinning about his sweet upgrade. My partner says I am the butthole for questioning her parenting in public and making her cry. Am I? Wow. Okay. I'm just going to read the top comment here because I totally agree and I have more to add. She's in the wrong for 1. Not being able to plan and book ahead of time so her son isn't left alone. 2. Not being able to put aside her comfort ahead of her precious son. And 3. Thinking that anyone owes her anything for being a poor planner. Not only that, your partner should support you. The fact that their partner says they are the butthole because they question someone's parenting? No. There are many parents that aren't perfect. There are so many parents that are far from perfect. You can question things. That's well within your right. As a human, any human is allowed to question things. That's like unspoken rule, you know? You question things, you be skeptical of stuff, that's the whole thing. It's not your fault that they broke down crying. As you said, she cares more about her own comfort than her son's well-being. It's so ridiculous. No, you're not the butthole. OP also said in the comments section, when I booked my seat, hers was already taken, so she booked first. Didn't look like poor planning. Looked like she only wanted to pay for one premium seat and wanted to guilt me into giving up my seat. Yeah, I feel like that's worse, yeah. It's much worse knowing that detail. But you're still not in the wrong. You're fine. This next post is by Brilliant Peace 9682. Am I the butthole for uninviting 25 family members to my wedding 6 weeks to showtime? I have had this Halloween wedding planned for 2 years. The venue I wanted has a wait list. All of a sudden, my mum and grandma decided the wedding was satanic and wanted me to make last minute changes. I told my mum and grandma a firm no. 2 years my family has known about this. Because I've told them, now half my mum's side thought they would be cute and say they aren't coming in a random power struggle. I told them fine and cancelled everyone's invitations who complained or backed my mum or grandma on this. One of my sisters acted like she stepped out of bridesmaid duty, so I replaced her. It was about 25 people that decided to act stupid at less than 6 week mark, so I sent out uninvited invitation, and I sent out new QR codes for those attending, and the venue will be check-in by only those to let people in. My aunt, who is one of the uninvited, told me people are allowed to disagree with me, and that doesn't mean I can pull an invitation from a wedding that they have made plans to attend. I told my aunt they had 2 years for complaints, but saying you are not going at 6 weeks before my wedding is BS, and everyone effed around and found out. I will not be bullied by my family over this. Yeah, that last statement rang very true. Also, it's not a wedding. It's your wedding. You can do what you want with your wedding. No one else gets to tell you. It's for you and your significant other. But regardless, it's for you. So, sure, they can disagree with you. They're allowed to disagree with you. You're also allowed to not have them there. You don't have to invite your work boss that you don't like to the wedding. It's so clear to me. Also, I think Halloween wedding is something I haven't really thought about before. Actually sounds kinda absolute cinema. I don't know that I'd do it, but I think the concept sounds really fun. And I would like to go to a wedding that is like that, just not mine. But yeah, that sounds like fun. I think I'd enjoy something like that. This next post is by Usual Success 7450. Am I the butthole for offering to sell my seat to honeymooners? I was flying from Melbourne to Dubai. I paid for premium economy seat because it is a 14-hour flight and I want to be comfortable. Fair enough. The person in the next seat had been upgraded and they asked if I could switch seat with their wife as they had just gotten married and were on their honeymoon. I congratulated him and asked where his wife was sitting. He pointed towards the back of the plane, in economy. I declined to switch seats. He asked me if there was any way to convince me. I offered to switch if he paid the difference between the seats. It is a good amount. I had been lucky to get mine at a decent price. It would have only cost him, I don't know, $1,000 Australian. He said that they were on a budget for their honeymoon. I congratulated him once again and put in my earbuds. He muttered that I was an a-hole. I said he was a prick for taking the upgrade instead of either sitting with his wife or giving it to her. I told my wife about the incident and she thinks I should have done the nice thing. For the record, she hates flying in economy, so I know she would not have switched. This is what the top comment says, and I totally agree with what this top comment says too. I would have said the same thing anyway. Not the butthole. If he really wanted to sit with his wife, I'm sure the person sitting behind her would have loved an upgrade to premium economy. He was essentially asking you to pay for his wife's upgrade. As a seasoned flyer from Australia who also works in aviation, I smell a rat. Presumably they booked together. They would have had the opportunity to plead their case when the upgrade was processed, either by contacting the airline prior to the day of flying or in person at the airport. My bet is that they either booked separately so she couldn't be taken into account, or he has some kind of status with the airline, and I'd also bet that the newlywed yarn was made up for sympathy. He didn't have to take the upgrade, and you were not to blame for his selfishness and lack of planning. Facts. Could not have said that better myself. Natural Garbage 7674. Absolute facts. This next post is by Absolute Failure. Am I the butthole for telling an employee she can choose between demotion or termination? I own a vape shop. We're a small business, only 12 employees. One of my employees, Peggy, was supposed to open yesterday. Peggy had recently been promoted to manager after 2 solid years of good work as a cashier. I really thought she could handle the responsibility. Yeah, fair enough, 2 solid years. So I wake up 3 hours after the place should be open. Okay, and I have 22 notifications on the store Facebook page. Oh no. Customers have been trying to come shop, but the store is closed. Employees are showing up to work, but they're locked out. Okay, Peggy, what you doing here? I call Peggy and get no response. I text her, same thing. So I go in and open the store. An hour before our shift was supposed to be over. Wow. She calls me back. I ask her if she's okay. She says she needed to take a mental health day and do some self-care. I'm still pretty peed at this point, but I'm trying to be understanding, as I know how important mental health can be. So I ask her why she didn't call me as soon as she knew she needed the day off. Her response, I didn't have enough spoons in my drawer for that. Frankly, I don't know what that means, but it seems to me like she's saying she can't be trusted to handle the responsibility of opening the store in the AM. So I told her that she had 2 choices. Go back to her old position with her old pay, I fire her completely. She's calling me all sorts of ist now, and says that I'm discriminating against her due to her poor mental health and her gender. None of this would have been a problem if she simply took 2 minutes to call out. I would have gotten up and opened the store on time. But this no-call no-show is not the way to run a successful business. I think I might be the butthole here, because I am taking away her promotion over something she really had no control over. But at the same time, she really could have called me. Yeah, so I don't think the comments say this very well, so I'm just going to say how I feel about this. I don't think they're the butthole. I do think Peggy should have called. Had Peggy have called OP, I think it would have been fine. But At the same time, I know what it's like to be in Peggy's spot, so I feel like, See, this one's a really tough one. I wonder if this was her first opening day. Because if this was her first opening day, I would probably give her a second chance. Because I think I've been in Peggy's spot, and I know what it's like to be in that spot. But I would heavily criticize the fact that she did not call or communicate in any way. Even if she didn't call, which is what OP wants her to have done, she could have messaged. And I know when I'm in Peggy's spot, which I have been before, messaging can be a lot easier to do, as Peggy said, something she might have the spoons for. Messaging is a lot easier to do than calling, at times, especially for introverted people like myself. So I can totally understand messaging, but there should have been some communication at least, yes. In saying that, I don't think OP is the butthole. It's just a different type of management. And I think it's really generous to also offer her old position, because if she did this multiple times, I would not give her that option either. It would be, you do it once, I give you a second chance. Do it twice, you're fired. There's no, oh, you go back to your old position. Yes, you did your old position well, so that's fair enough, but that's not what you're doing now. You're doing a different thing. You're not firing her for the old position, you're firing her for the current position. It's like starting from scratch, you know? But no, I don't think OP is the butthole for that either. Okay, so there was actually an update post for this. Yeah, so update. Peggy reached out to me yesterday, apologized and asked if we could meet for lunch. We met up, and the first thing she did was apologize again. For the no call no show, and also for her reaction to my response, she admitted that she knows I'm not sexist or ableist. I don't know if I spelt that right, there's a red line under it. And explained that she was lashing out due to a mental state. Okay, this is starting to make a bit more sense. I accepted her apology and offered one of my own, both for giving her too much responsibility too quickly, fair enough, and also for reacting out of emotion, yeah. She explained to me that she had a major issue on Monday, and without getting into too much detail, I'll just say it was the anniversary of a bad thing. Okay, I can kinda see where this might be okay. She's taking all of her accumulated paid time off 9 weeks, and we've agreed that going forward, I'm not going to put her on the schedule on that day ever again. She's admitted that she's not up to the role of manager. When she returns, she'll be in the role of lead cashier, a role I specifically created for her. That way she can keep her raise and not feel like she got a demotion, but rather a lateral transfer. I've also let her know that if she ever feels like she's up to more responsibility, she can let me know, and I'll put her right back on track for the manager spot. I've also let her know that if she's ever in a position where she's not able to call out, she can simply text me a thumbs down emoji, and I'll accept that as notice that she will be missing her next shift. She's agreed that that will be okay even when she's out of spoons. I appreciate all of the 6,000 comments my post got, even the ones calling me the butthole. Thank you all very much. I want to specifically address the folks who explained the spoon theory to me, as well as those who commented about Peter Principle. Those two types of comments very heavily influenced my actions. I was able to better understand both her issue and my own failures as a leader because of those comments. Hopefully we can both move forward from this unfortunate incident and end up better for it. I loved that response. That was so awesome. OP handled that the best I have seen a manager handle something in so long. That's so good. I really hope that this story is like completely real, because that was almost heartwarming in a way. OP created a specific role for Peggy, which is so sweet, and still gets the promotion. That's awesome. And I'm glad that they talked things out and they seem okay now. That is so satisfying to see that update and know that everything's okay. That was such a good outcome, and everyone felt listened to. I just loved that so much. That makes me smile. That is such a good note to end this off on. That's going to be it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the stories in r/am I the butthole. Let me know what you'd like to listen to next in the comment section below, and also hit that subscribe button with your deflated basketball glove that you have a hole cut out so you can actually use your fingerprint, because I post new Reddit content every single day. There are 2 videos on the screen right now, one of which is for the most recent video, and another is for a video the YouTube algorithm thinks you want to watch next. My name's Trey, this was Reload Reacts, and I will see you in the next video.